We now have an open public hearing to discuss and consider an opportunity for interested parties to be heard regarding the proposed resolution related to partial real estate property tax exemptions to qualified seniors and persons with disabilities of the Sachem Central School District as provided for by the New York Real Property Tax Law number 459-C and 467. At this point, maybe Michelle, if I can just turn it to you to kind of share with us what we're going to discuss and listen to from the public. Thank you.
Certainly. So in the last couple of meetings, we had been discussing this property tax exemption related to seniors with limited income and persons with disabilities with limited income. And just for a little bit of history, going back to the 23-24 taxable year, that's when these limits were increased. Prior to that, it was 2009. For Sachem, we had been at the level that was adopted in 2009, which was a $29,000, for income between $0 and $29,000. These individuals were eligible for a 50% property tax exemption. And then there was a phase out leading up to $37,400. So we haven't changed those thresholds since 2009. When the increases became effective in 2023, the towns and the counties went to the new maximum, which was $50,000 with a sliding scale reduction up to $58,400. Some districts did adopt that higher level. Some districts adopted to keep it where it was. And then there's a mix in between, which over the last couple of years, districts have been moving to various levels. So as we discussed in the last couple of meetings, there are some proposals to maybe increase that threshold because we've had several seniors come and indicate that they have lost this exemption. But there was a note of caution from the town assessors that said to us, don't necessarily jump right to the highest level, because if you find that it shifts that tax burden, it has to shift the tax burden to the other taxpayers. And if that becomes too much, you can't go back down. So at the last meeting, the board asked me to provide that sliding scale, which is in your packet, of what it would look like at $42,500 as the minimum, the maximum for the 50% property tax exemption, with a sliding scale reduction up to $50,900. So that's what's in your packet here. Shows where we were in 2009, that proposed increase in the threshold, and then what some of our other neighboring districts have done.
Thank you, Michelle. Allison, any speakers on this topic? No? Okay. Any questions from the board? Comments?
Clarification.
Yeah.
We're raising that threshold by 25% this year, with the understanding that we're going to look at, see how the impact is on the community as a whole. We'll have a better snapshot or picture next year as to how much people's taxes went up. Because the understanding is when one group gets an exemption, okay, it's falling on the backs of the remaining taxpayers. So it is a 25% increase, which is more than a lot of districts are providing right now. That's correct, right?
Right now, the majority of the districts have now moved to the maximum of the 50,000 up to 58,400. There are just a handful of districts now that are at lower levels, the same as Sachem.
But all of those districts also changed the inclusion of.
I would have to look and see which ones changed those income options. I think many districts went with that option too, because that was the recommendation from specifically, I think it was the ISLIP assessor held a webinar for all of us.
Any other questions from the board? Comments? Okay. Good, Mike.
Michelle, for purposes right now, what defines income as we define it right now? It's Social Security, right? Interest income, I think.
Pensions are calculated in income for this exemption. So we didn't adopt any of the changes to the income definitions that were being presented. I think it was last year. So right now, we left it as the option 2 was to include IRAs and annuities, and the thinking was that would kind of level the playing field because pensions are already included in the definition of income. So to include all of those retirement incomes. By doing that, I believe in one of the towns, believe it was the town of Islip, indicated that would 144 seniors would now be eligible for the exemption, but then some seniors would fall off. So we have an assessor here this evening. I'm not going to put him on the spot, but it's very hard to quantify what that change will be because people's incomes will change year to year. So you don't know, like we had a situation with a community member received a settlement, and for this one tax year, he lost his exemption, but he can apply again next year. So you really don't know what people's income is going to be. You can't really project that. Circumstances change from year to year.
But I would venture to say that right now we're not including a senior who may be forced to take an RMD out of a 401k, right? That's not included.
Right now, that's not. Only pensions are included.
Right.
Right.
So, but the other school districts have opted to do that, I guess.
Mhm. Correct.
So although they raise their threshold, they also raise the definition, right?
Correct. So that kind of smoothed it out.
So so right now we're not opting to do anything to the definition of income. We're just opting to raise
The
the
threshold.
threshold of what is the current definition of income.
Can I, Michelle, I'm sorry to,
This is Felix Weinclaw. He's the assessor from Brookhaven.
good evening, board. My name is Felix Weinclaw. I'm the assessor at the town of Brookhaven. Is that, board member Cernia? Hi, the definition of income can't be decided by the school board. It's decided by the state of New York.
I understood. I mean, what is the current definition?
It's, you
of
start
income?
with your federal adjusted gross income, and then there's three options. And those three options engender essentially, I think, 20 something different, eight different, what do you want to call it, permutations of how income is derived. So every school district, we have 19 school districts in the town of Brookhaven. So some of the districts went with we call it the default option. Some said, I want option. There's three options. So at that point, it changes. So it depends on what options the board would change based on what the state of New York gives you. They give you the three options. I don't know them offhand. I wasn't prepared to do that, even though I do have that information. It's a little tricky. And to say how it's going to affect. Okay, so there's option one. Option two is you start with the federal adjusted gross income and you leave any IRAs in the federal adjusted gross, and you leave full Social Security, not just the taxable part, the full part. So a lot of people collect Social Security, but maybe not all of it's taxable. So on the tax return, you have the left side, the middle box is Social Security, and then the far right, when we calculate income, it becomes taxable. So that's one option. Option one, that's the basic. Yeah, it's the basic. There's a basic mandate which basically says leave your IRAs, because remember your IRAs go into your federal adjusted gross income. So that's in there, and then only includes the taxable Social Security. So like I said, it's hard to do this here, but there is a whole body of knowledge and information which I didn't realize we'd be talking about that time. I would have brought it with me. I didn't plan on speaking on this subject. So it's a little tricky. And as far as who it affects, as I think you asked that question prior, who it affect, it's really difficult to say. When I spoke with Michelle a few months ago on this, I said, the only knowledge I could give this board and to you is what we think based on in this I had my IT guy pull this district, and I said, okay, who has the town or the county of the over 65 seniors and limited income? And we came up with, it would decrease your taxable assessed value. That's something that gets driven into your tax levy, which creates a tax rate, which we multiply by the assessment, and that's how people get taxed on all the different lines. So it would have increased your, roughly, it's not perfect, but by about $304,000. So you decrease the taxable value, and that gets divided into the tax levy, and that prunes out a rate. So if you made the denominator smaller, the rate would be bigger. And if you make the denominator bigger, the rate would be smaller. So that's the best information I can give you, because again, income changes from year to year. Most people are steady and static, but sometimes there are people who get structured settlements, who get one-time bumps in their income. They're disqualified or ineligible for 1 year, then they get to become eligible the following year when their income drops down. So it's a little tricky. That was the best information I can give. That's how I presented to my own town board when they said, okay, how are we doing this? And I told them this is this is what I, suggest. And they went with that. And what I did was I gave them the increase. I can tell you for the town part, I gave them the increase in the income. So we went from the 37.4 up to the 58.4 with all those, strata in between. And then I just said, well, we took option 2, which is full Social Security, and you leave your IRA income in the federal adjusted gross, and we didn't give them any allowance for medical expenses.
So-
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So right now, the way it's done for Sachem, only the taxable portion of Social Security is included in the income.
I believe that the basic mandate. Let me say yes. Oh, no, full. The basic mandate is the full amount of Social Security.
So if
yeah.
there's going to be no tax on Social Security starting this tax year, what happens?
It's still part of the, I guess it'll get taken out. Again, this is now we have to get tax returns from our applicants, and we look at the tax returns and we go from there. So there's no tax, but I don't believe it's no tax on full Social Security from what I'm reading. I'm doing some stuff. I do tax prep work as well. And it's only going to be a limited number. I'm not going to get the whole. I don't believe the whole of Social Security is going to be reduced. It's going to be a number, I believe, for seniors.
So you think it's going to be included in the AGI and then removed?
It'll be in the federal
and
adjusted.
then removed
Yes,
someplace
it
later.
could be potentially. Yeah, and that could be your modified adjusted gross income. It's there's levels when you go through a tax return. So because they all mean different things. Those numbers all, are calculations for other things within the tax code.
I'm just concerned about other relief that could be coming by the Secure 2.0 Act with regard to Social Security that we're taking action now that maybe we don't need to take.
Well, this has to do with real estate taxes. So it's the income. It's basically what you guys define, what we would define as income, what this board would define as income. I mean, you're talking about income tax and real estate tax. So this
You're using the tax return information, right?
they use the information to get your level of income, so we can give you what percentage of your reduction on your real estate taxes you get.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, one does.
So that AGI is going to be a function of whatever the tax law is now.
Yeah, right. The federal adjusted gross income. I mean, right now we know certain things not going to be taxable. I mean, usually these people aren't working. They're usually retirement, fixed income, and things like that. So like the overtime is not going to affect them. But the Social Security, the part that's not going to be taxable, I don't believe it's going to be the full, but it's going to be a certain amount at this point.
Okay, thanks.
Is that? I know that
Yeah,
helps or made it worse.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I think I just mixed. How many households are we talking about? Do we have that number? That's for the seniors and the disabled persons.
So for the town of Islip, just bear with me one second. This year, it impacts 203 households. In Smithtown, I only have prior year data for Smithtown, but it impacted 44 households.
41?
44. Sorry. And then for Brookhaven, it's roughly 335.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else from the board? Go ahead, Rob.
Michelle, I don't know if you can answer this, obviously, our state aid is determined by combined wealth ratio. And if people lost that exemption, on paper, does it look like we're a richer community now, a wealthy community, because now we're including
Well, the factored into the combined wealth ratio, and I could get that full formula for you, that's based on your income. So I don't think losing a property tax exemption, it's based on the income that's reported to
but
the
if we
state.
now started to include, as part of people's taxable income, investments,
So if we
okay,
change
it
the
will-
definition, that's
we
going
change the
to,
definition, and right now that technically can impact our combined wealth ratio, which can then impact our state aid.
it's a combination of income and property value that goes into that formula, but I could include the full formula into your Friday packet.
Good, Mike.
Rob, I'm not sure that the combined wealth ratio uses the property tax exemptions, does it? Because
Not the exemption, it uses the values.
yeah, but those values are the same on the tax returns, regardless of whether the person gets exemptions or not. That doesn't change anything. It's only how we're using income for the purpose of property tax exemptions. Right? That's based on,
As far as what you count as income. If you're now counting investments
Yeah, but
in
that's
income.
Yeah, but that's not part of. That's not part. Those are income tax return questions, not property tax.
No, I
return questions.
understand that. Yeah, I'm just concerned about impacting the combined wealth ratio.
Yeah,
It's two different things.
I don't think it's going to affect the CWRP. Nothing. Yeah. I don't think so.
Mike, what I think
we're
he's
talking about two
saying,
different things. One,
things.
Rob's
Not what
talking
we're
about
approving
what
tonight.
we're reporting. If you now have to include in your income when you report things or your,
Who am I
investments.
reporting to?
New York
like
State,
New York State.
when you file your income taxes. So it's a combination of income, it's a whole formula, but to come up with that combined wealth ratio factors in property value and income. So if you're reporting more income, if we look like we're wealthier school district, our combined wealth ratio goes up and our state share goes down.
I'm not sure how those are intertwined because you send up a tax return. It doesn't matter whether you own a piece of property here or not. Your tax return looks the same. The exemption.
not if we're considering income more than it ever was.
We're considering income for the purpose of property tax exemptions, not for the purpose of your income for the state and for
Well, yeah.
income tax purposes.
I see where Mike's going. Right. Your tax return isn't going to change based on something that the
Right.
district
So when
adopts
you report
here.
up to Albany and feds isn't going to change. This is only for the purpose of local property tax exemptions.
Correct.
So that wouldn't go on their tax return? Like if their income went up by X amount,
Your income is going to be reported at whatever it is, regardless of
Okay.
what the district decides for
Right.
property tax
That
purposes.
income's reported no matter what.
okay. Thanks, Michelle. For the board, anything else? We're, okay. At this time, I'd like to get a
So
motion to close the.
I
Go
would
ahead.
need to know if the board wants to move forward with changing this threshold, because that would be a separate resolution that has to be
when
adopted
do we
prior
need
to
to tell
March
you?
1st.
By March
We would
1st.
have to have a resolution adopted
We took a
prior
leaning
to
last
March
time, I
1st.
think, right? So we did have a direction.
So
I think
if you want to move forward with on your sheets, the yellow highlighted side, those were the thresholds we discussed last
Yeah.
time. So I'll prepare a resolution for the next board meeting.
That's fine.
25% increase.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Need a motion to close the public hearing? Motion by Steph, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Which takes us to our regular meeting. So welcome, everybody, to the regular meeting of the Sagen Board of Education. At this point in time, I'd like to ask the young ladies from Troop 1020, representing Waverly and Hiawatha, I believe, to come and lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance. And just please remain standing for our traditional moment of silence.
Want to hold this?
No,
No? Okay. Want to hold it?
no.
No? Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
Liberty
liberty.
and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Great job. Great job, kids.
Thank you.
I'm going to agree.
Wait a second, why they say no? I want.
Okay. All right. Ordinarily, we'd go to the superintendent's report, but I think we,
I'd like to make a motion to just go into exec session to discuss contracts, get clarification on one of the items that possibly we might get engaged in the resolution.
great. We have a motion by Rob. Do we need a second? Second by Steph. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried. Folks, we'll be about 10 minutes. We just need to have a discussion with legal counsel regarding a contract we're going to be voting on tonight. So just hang tight. We'll be right back.
No, you're good.
Oh, we haven't done that. We haven't. We did it. It was one time. Last year. We haven't done this. If I threw it out there, you'd probably give it. What do you mean, like the winning grade of the class fours gets to go out? All grades. You guys have what place this year? Anyway, it's like one of the worst comes off. He's over here. I don't know. I was like struggling not to cry. And I looked right at Dennis. Dennis was like, and I looked at the characters. He was like, he had his head in his hand like this. I know, I'm talking about yes, she got I mean, she sounds like her. Yes, New York Post came in. Fox. She's gonna be on. She's gonna be on tomorrow. Oh, no, Friday. Friday at 5 o'clock. She's gonna be on national, or maybe not national. Yeah, I was trying to get. I know it's at 5, but it's like a certain section. It's like sports. Actually, it's like that. It's on W. Yeah, then other than that, we'll talk about the curriculum. Yeah, that's No, it's like a dry. I'm gonna talk about this. I left that on. They're playing for maybe. I'm like, I'm very I hate the coach. They're all short. We have to match it up how she's like 6'2". Hanson's. I know Derek Hansen. He's only crazy. He's averaging. She was really good. I actually was with them in HR for that game. She
So 12 of them.
The swimming pool closed the door. Sisters. It's like she's in middle school and her season's gonna be in spring. So like she's working, like they're worried. But it's, she's in middle school, so she's second. So middle school team. You're gonna have to get the bus since she's. You guys got to sign. Really? No, we had our holiday spirits week, holiday bowl tournament, which was cool. Even that's more ran by our department. So, I was in it myself. So it was fun. It was like definitely gonna be longer than that. 17 and a half. Over under. What do you think? What do you think? They're at 8 right now.
We kind of just yeah, so they're at 7. I say gamble for real money, but we gamble over time so they speed against it. They go this one's gonna be a long one.
Yeah, you said. Never goes past 2 hours. Your Instagram mode? Yeah. I'm just gonna say 5 o'clock. I think that's it's a recent. It's starting. Pretty sure what they did last year was pretty funny. Oh no, this was for prom. No, but our the buses for prom. Our guy, like the teacher, literally put up like 3 bus things on his whiteboard. We said, all right, first come, first serve, write your names down on the bus. And it was like a scramble. Might have been more, just 4. But you just had the buses list, and you had to run to the room, write your name down. And you couldn't write down. Just, you went to write down someone else's name. Nope, can't do that.
You miss us, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get seated.
I told you. I didn't have to know. I told you that.
Okay. Most of the people here.
Need a motion to come out of exec back into public session. Motion by Rob, second by Stephanie. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody, for waiting. We just needed to get through something. So at this point in the agenda, I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Trombetta for the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a wonderful break and had a time to spend with their family and friends. It's great to be back. A lot of exciting things happen. I know the board has received a bunch of emails lately and inquiries about the Sachem North Pool. So I just want to clarify things for the community. In the summertime, we had problems with the filter. The filter is now fixed, but during that time, we also, when we were excavating and repairing 2 to 3 leaks in the deck of the pool, and there was also now leaks in the lights within the pool. So tomorrow morning, we have pressure testing being done at the pool to see if we have any more leaks. We want to make sure that the pool is in good shape before we return swimmers back into the pool. So we are taking steps to see where we're at and see what our next steps will be. And like I said, tomorrow is the pressure testing taking place, and that'll tell us what the stage we're at and making sure that the pool is safe to be in. So we'll keep the community apprised as to the next steps. And now I'd like to invite Felix back up, as well as Councilman Manzella, to present on the tax assessor presentation.
Everybody, thank you very much for having me. I'll see what I got to use. Either way, I'll start here. If I start moseying, I'll grab the other one. Got to be turned on. Everybody good? Everybody can hear me. All right, excellent. Thank you very much for having me. So again, my name is Councilman Neil Manzella. I represent part of the Sachem School District. I share it with my colleague, Councilman Neil Foley. The way to know is basically Portion Road North is the area that I represent. But what I used to do is work in the assessor's office actually for 6 years before coming to council member. And so what I started doing in this role was to go around, similar to the request that we got at the town here from Michelle. We get requests all the time about people just wanting to know what I look at a tax bill. I don't know what I'm looking at, right? Where do the taxes come from? What does this mean? What does that mean? And so what I did was create this presentation. And what I do is go around with Felix, our sole assessor, and also in the crowd is Lou Marcosha, our receiver of taxes, to be a one-stop shop for any questions somebody has about taxes, so that when the subject comes up, everybody's on the exact same page. And that's pretty much what this is. A lot of what I go over may be familiar to you. Some of it may be brand new. Some people may not know anything that I'm about to say, but everywhere in the middle should be to fill in all the gaps that anybody may have, so that in the end, we all have a better understanding of what we're talking about. So the first thing and the most important thing is understanding the difference between an assessed value and a taxable assessed value. So your assessed value, what that is a number put on your property by the assessor's office. They assess all real property in Brookhaven Town. Now, property versus real property. When you hear the term property, often people just think of land. Funny enough, land is one of the lowest assessed value pieces that we have. New York State defines real property as all fixed structures on your land. So basically, it's your house, it's your shed, it's a pool, it's structures that can't easily be removed is your real property. That's where your assessed value comes from. Here in Brookhaven Town, we run at roughly a 4-digit number. If you're in a 5-digit assessed value number, that's a big number. Most residential properties are a 4-digit number. The average across Brookhaven Town is 2718. Now, 2,718 is the assessed value average across Brookhaven Town for a residential parcel. Normally, when we're talking about taxes, we're not talking to business owners. We're not talking to commercial properties where people want to know about their property taxes, their house. So that's what this number is based on. Up here at the breakdown, everybody can see on the side here, is the average assessed value for every hamlet in Sachem School District in Brookhaven Town. Holtzville happens to be the only one that's slightly higher average than the town. But overall, everybody sees here in the green numbers is that the average across Sachem School District is just under Brookhaven Township average. What does that mean? You're going to have some areas with low assessed values. You're going to have some areas with high assessed values. You guys are talking about the value in the school district and the income in the school district. That all drives the same thing. So these are the numbers we're talking about. But throughout the whole presentation, what I'm going to be talking about is averages, because there's no way to know everybody's individual assessed value. By the end of this presentation, everybody will know how to look at their tax bill, find out what their assessed value is, and then be able to apply all of this on their own. So what does 2718 mean? An assessed value of 2718 means that that property is worth roughly $566,250. Now, when you're buying a home, where do you want your assessed value to be? Super low, right? I want to buy the house when it's very cheap. That's what I want to spend on. But when you're selling your house, where do you want your assessed value? Through the roof, so you could sell it for a high number. When you're taxed, where do you want your assessed value? Very low. When you have people giving you property A value, where do you want it to be? Very high. You can't have it both ways, but the entire purpose of the assessor's department is about creating fair and equitable. My firm belief, I believe this for 6 years, ever since I started learning about all this stuff, is that the tax burden is exactly that. It's a burden, but it's a burden that we all share. Nobody should pay a penny less than they're responsible for, but nobody should pay a penny more than they're responsible for. And the reason why is when we get into exemptions is why I believe in fully in exemptions. And it's funny that I didn't even know you were talking about that tonight, but the idea of exemptions is that if somebody's eligible to lower their taxable assessed value, then in my opinion, they're entitled to that and they deserve that. So the average assessed value in Brookhaven Town is 2718, but there are many people out there who have exemptions, and there's a slew of exemptions we'll get into later, but that lowers what your taxable assessed value is, and your taxable assessed value is what determines your portion of the tax burden. So the next up comes into your assessed value. How do I change it, right? You have a home, and the two numbers we're looking at, I rounded down just so nobody's confused to 2,700 instead of talking about 2,718 because it's just easier to deal with regular numbers. If you want your assessed value to go down, you can remove improvements. So an improvement is normally real property. If you put in a built-in pool, that's going to make your assessed value go up. If you take out a built-in pool, an in-ground pool, your assessed value should go down. If you have a detached garage that you take out and you demolish, your assessed value should go down. If you add on to your house an extra room, guess where your assessed value is going to go? It's going to go up. These are all different things that the town has to monitor in order to adjust your assessed value so that you are fairly assessed. If you're fairly assessed, you're fairly taxed, and that's the end game goal. So that's about your assessed value, what makes it go up and down. Your exemptions. Exemptions don't lower the value of your home. Exemptions lower your taxable assessed value. So if we're talking about an average of $2,700 assessed value and you apply for an exemption that you're eligible for, that $2,700 will go down based on that exemption. The best example is the old STAR exemption that's not around anymore. In the example you're going to see later on is my personal tax bill. I have that exemption because I had it for years now. And if you had it for years, you could be grandfathered in. You're not going to get into that. But what happens is your assessed value goes down by 150 or so. And then that equates to a dollar amount in taxes that go down. So that's what exemptions are there for. And very simple enough, brookhavenny.gov is our main website. /exemptions is going to show you a list of exemptions that are there. Whether you qualify for them or not is up to every residential homeowner to look into and see if they qualify, fill out the application, apply to our assessor's office, and then they will administer that exemption to your property. Another way to lower your assessment is grievance. Now, the people behind me might not like to hear this. The assessor's office is made up of humans. Everywhere you go, people are working. People make mistakes sometimes. I like to think that we make the fewest mistakes in all of Suffolk County. I'm going to keep that going. Hopefully, you'll back me up on that one. But it happens, right? If somebody feels that their assessment is too high, they have the right to challenge it. Every year is the grievance period. What everybody's probably familiar with hearing is I'm going to grieve my taxes, right? That's technically inaccurate. You don't grieve your taxes. Everybody's upset about how much taxes they pay. Everybody is. That's fine. You're not actually grieving your taxes. You're grieving your real property assessment. And that's what it's called. It's called a grievance on real property assessment, where in that time period, you can provide proof that says, here are homes selling in my district. So I'm going to back it up 2 slides real quick. Here's homes in my district that are selling for, my home is listed at, let's go with the average in Ronkonkoma, $2,519. You're telling me that my house is worth $524,792. This house around the block from me just sold for $480,000. And this house two blocks down sold for $500,000 flat. I think that I'm assessed too high. I want you to lower my assessment. And if they could provide that proof, we're going to lower your assessment. We have an alternative board that is called, it's an appellate board, the Board of Assessment Review, that actually look at all the information provided by the resident, challenge the assessor, and then they make the determination what should happen to the assessment. They do not work for the town. They work alongside the town specifically to challenge what the assessor's office does. That's what you're doing when you're grieving your taxes. You're grieving the property assessment placed on your property. So those are 2 ways that you, as a resident, can actually affect your property assessment, therefore affecting your tax bill. Now, when we're talking about tax bills, what is a tax bill? The taxes is budgets. It's budgets spread across the town. Every single municipality has a budget. The budget is created by individuals at that municipality, and then that's what we all have to chip in for our tax burden. The average breakdown is right here listed in the pie chart. You're not going to hear me go into anybody's budget besides Brookhaven Town. I have no idea what goes into the school budget. I don't know what goes into the fire budget, into the county budget. I know what goes into the town budget because that's what I'm responsible for. That's what I spend my time for. Any questions on any of the budgets, you have to talk to them. Here in Ronkonkoma is the one I took. You can see that it's actually very close. The averages change a little bit where you are based on your fire district, based on your ambulance district, based on your school and library districts. That's all going to modify the pie chart. But again, these are just rough numbers to look at what your tax bill breaks down to. And the reason why this is important is when I pull up the tax bill, you're going to see the different sections that show it so that you know what you're looking at. In Ronkonkoma, 2525 is not, it's a little, I think it's a little higher than the average. Well, let me go back to the averages now. Bear with me 1 second. Ronkonkoma's average is 2519. This home that I took these numbers from was a 2525, so only 6 more assessed values. So this is roughly the average breakdown of the average home in Ronkonkoma, and Ronkonkoma's average tax bill is $10,060.32. That's the average. If you pay more than that, your house is assessed higher than that. If you pay less than that, your house is assessed lower than that. That's how assessment ties into an actual dollar amount that we're talking about. So then comes our budgets. Again, I can only talk to you about Brookhaven Town's budget. We create a budget, and the budget is all compromised of our resources, our buildings, our staffing, our cost to us. The school districts, library district, I can tell you this, nobody is immune to the increased costs that we face day to day. That affects every budget, that affects every person, your household budget, professional budgets, everything. That is how taxes go up. If a budget goes up, taxes go up. If our budgets go down, tax goes down. How do the budgets go down? Town of Brookhaven, we could fire people. We can reduce fines. We can increase fines, I should say, right? Because if we increase fines in Brookhaven, we increase revenue. If we have any revenue sources that we increase costs from, it increases our revenue. Here's our budget. Our revenue cuts out the bottom, and then the budget is made up of all of our taxpayers filling in the rest. That's how it works. So that's how we can modify our budgets. You can, as a resident, can modify your assessed value through the ways I talked about, and then we're responsible for our budgets, and then together they form our tax bill. I know I'm going kind of quick, but I don't know how long everybody wants me to be up here. So on our tax bill, so this is my tax bill. Along the top on the right is the exemption portion. Anybody who has an exemption, a senior exemption, a firefighter's exemption, that's listed up top there. Mine is just Star Basic, as you see. So all it is showing that I was receiving the Star Basic exemption, which was a savings of, I can't even see what it says from, I can't read it from here. Not enough is what it's saying. It's not enough. No, but it's a savings. It's what I'm entitled to. I applied for it. I was okay, good to go. Star. Everybody else now, by the way, the Star credit program, if you don't know about it, everybody's entitled to the Star program unless you're making, I think it's like $300,000 or more, $500,000 or more. If you're making more than $500,000, you're not eligible for the Star credit program. The Star exemption program was done away with in 2015, is now a Star credit program. It's still the same program, but instead of having it off of your tax bill, you pay your full tax bill and you get a check sent to you at the end of the year. So that's what's listed there. The second circle on the left shows you a couple of things. Number one, it shows you your property assessment, but everybody see right there where it says land assessment, land ASST? My assessed value is $2,500 on my home, which is lower than the average in Brookhaven Town. I have a small home, nothing big. My assessed value is $2,500. My land value is actually that's the land. That's the property. When we say property, think your actual quarter acre, third of an acre you live on. 300 of that 2,500 is the land value. It's the lowest amount. The rest of it is my house, is my garage, is my shed. So that shows you where your house is, where your property's assessment is. And then it says the full value, $471,000. That's what Brookhaven Town is telling me my house can sell for. Now, both of my neighbors sold their house in the last 3 years, and they each sold their house for a lot more than that number. So what does that tell me? My assessment is pretty low. The good news about that is they can't just go in and jack my assessment up for no reason at all. Doesn't work like that. This assessment was put on my property years ago. What are we dealing with? 1950 was when the values came on here. And if there's any questions about that, I'll let Felix answer that later. But I added nothing onto my home. I added no in-ground pool, no shed. No. My house is exactly as it was when I bought it, is almost exactly as it was when it was first built. So my assessment does not change. So that's what I'm locked in as. That's my taxes, okay? In the middle here shows the breakdown of what we just had the pie chart for. Personally, I'm going to say this, and I know we have our receiver of taxes here. I don't like how this is laid out because it's not 100% accurate. The pie chart that I just listed is, but what I did was, if you look under the other taxes portion, there's part of that bill that is actually in the town, but it was separated. We separated them out. It was put there because it was confusing to have it listed on the town. Like, why isn't it just listed under the town? It was too big of a conversation. They listed it there. But the pie chart that we put in, the Brookhaven's 9% of the tax bill, fully encompasses your parks and recreation line, the animal shelter line, the lighting districts. That's all part of town taxes that we own up to. So when you're looking at the bill, just know that that's all encompassed in the percentage breakdown. But again, this just shows you, here's your school and library. That's why it's part of the pie chart, because they're lumped together. Here's your county, your town, and then everything else. So when you're looking at a tax bill now, You can see your own assessed value. You know what it means. That assessed value is calculated into an actual dollar value for your property. You can now see that. Again, the best way to look at assessment, and for years we were answering this question, somebody would call in and say, I'm assessed too high. And I said, okay, if you sold your house today, how much do you think you'd get for it? And if their answer is lower than the number we have, you might have a good chance to grieve your assessment and have it modified. The way that the market has been, though, is that year after year, housing prices are skyrocketing. Our assessments are not going anywhere because the market is just so volatile and crazy that houses were... I don't understand why the houses next to me were selling for as high as they did, but because they did, I know that I can sell my house for probably close to that. The assessment is lower. I'm saying thank you, but realistically, there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to argue it. If it was the other way around, we would be flooded with calls saying the houses are selling for 200 grand, but you have me assessed at 400 grand. That's all of the groundwork you need to grieve your assessment, and then it will probably be changed by the Board of Assessment Review. I went through that very fast. If anybody of the board members have a question, please, I'm here. If anybody in the audience, whoever has a question.
Oh, thank you. Let me open it up to the board to see if there's any questions. Steph?
Not school district related, but I think people are wondering the same thing. So I'll ask, if you go and grieve your taxes, which is grieving your assessment, not
Thank
yours,
you.
right? And you accidentally show them that your house is worth more, will it go
No.
up?
The only way Brookhaven Town can increase your assessment is if you come to the town, you apply for a permit because you want to add an addition to your home. You want to add some kind of new real property to your property. That is how we can modify your assessment. So the process is, I want to put in a pool. Come to the town, I put in a permit, I want to apply for a pool. You get granted the permit, you dig out the hole, build the pool. Before you get a certificate of occupancy on your property, the last step is a certificate of assessment. That alone is the whole ticket that goes to the assessor's office that says this home added real property to them, their assessment needs to be adjusted. And it's the same thing that happens when you go and modify to remove something. You take out a demolition permit. You're still going to need a certificate of assessment towards the end in order to notify us, hey, this was removed. Their assessment needs to be modified.
Question? Yeah, Rob, go ahead.
Just, I appreciate you coming out and explaining this. You did a
Oh, my
great
pleasure.
job. Even though it was fast, it was very understandable.
I know, I'm sorry.
That's right. That's right. Maybe you could just touch base on how pilot programs, when a town issues a pilot program to a new company that comes in, how does that impact taxes to, that the district would have?
I'm gonna let our sole assessor take care of that one because the IDA and pilots, how they affect assessment, will be better answered by him.
Okay, great.
And you want to go back to the beginning?
Just leave that first, the first slide up. That's what
That one?
Hi, to answer your question regarding the pilots, so the pilots are done with the Industrial Development Agency at the town. That is a separate body from the town of Brookhaven. They make deals with incoming developers and people want to, do the promise is there's jobs being created. That's why they do it. So they don't pay, they get assessed, but they don't, their assessment, they don't pay the tax based on the assessed value that Neil just went through.
Mm-hmm.
They pay what's called the pilot payment agreement. And usually, most times it's a lot less than what the taxes would be, because that's the gimme by the town to say, okay, well, you're going to create jobs, so this is what they do. Eventually, it's usually subject to an agreement, 10, 20, 30 years. And then once it falls off, the assessed value, we do place an assessed value on it, but they don't pay based on that until the agreement falls off. We have no control over that. To be honest with you, me and my real property appraiser talk about it all the time, and we really, we feel like it's just they're just giving dollars, they're giving tax dollars away. I'm going to be honest with you. It may not go well with the town IDA, but that's what the thing is. Well, we're bringing business and jobs in, and should be be creating all these jobs. That's the whole point of it. But it doesn't equate. That's the best way I could say.
Yeah. So what people need to understand is that when the IDA agrees to this deal to bring in corporations, for example, let's just throw Ronkonkoma Hub out there.
Sure.
Okay. It's a lot of, residents that, people living in.
Mhm.
Originally it was proposed at 1 and 2 bedrooms, max 2, and that is 3 bedrooms in there. And I'm not even sure if they get a pilot program.
They
I think
do.
They did.
They do.
So when they agree to that, for 30 years or 20 years, okay, we don't get that that tax
Well,
assessment.
the money comes into the town, but it's a lot less than it would be based on an ad
But it
valorem
doesn't come to the
tax.
district.
What's that?
It doesn't come to the district. Is that
I believe it does.
It
Yeah, I
does?
believe it does get, it's just not in great as an amount.
not as-
The
not
amount,
as what
because
it
if it
should
was,
be.
because we put a full taxable, we put a full assessment on it,
Yeah.
but that won't come to be until after this pilot agreement expires.
So I know that the concern that districts have across Long Island is that we have no say at the table. When that agreement is done, okay, we find out that we lost, I don't know, $800,000 in taxes or $1 million in taxes for the next 20 years.
Yep.
And then what happens is in a situation where it's residential, we have to educate those kids. So our
Understood.
expenses go up,
Understood.
but our tax revenue goes down. Yeah.
Preach it to the choir.
Yeah.
We're in the same, we feel the same way. We're like,
Yeah.
why, we nothing we could do about it, but it's just, okay, another IDA has come. We always, we cringe when we hear IDA because we know it's not going to pay off. And I'll be long gone when some of these, Ronkonkoma Hub is only in phase 2 and they got a ways to go yet.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. So my
Yeah.
second question, I don't know if this is really a question for you, but equalization rate. I know that sometimes it's confusing for people. We go out with a 2% budget, okay, and then all of a sudden people look at their taxes next year and their school taxes went up 8%. And that's not something that we control, but when I guess there's a shortfall within the taxes collected, that gets added to, my understanding gets added to the school taxes. Is that correct?
Not true. I don't think so. The equalization rate really doesn't have it. There's no direct effect of the equalization rate to your taxes. The taxes are based upon the assessed value.
Mhm.
What the equalization rate, I asked Neil to go back to the first slide. See that number, that 2718?
Mhm.
You know how it becomes 550, 566, 250? Equalization rate. That is the converter
Yeah.
to 1950 values to 2025 values. My own house, I'm using my own house. I live in this district. My number is 2960. So from 2009, I've been here since 1992. My house was worth, based on the equalization rate, my house was worth 400,000. Now my house is worth $616,667 based on the equalization rate. What the equalization rate does, and this is, I hold on to your hats is all I'm going to say, because this is complicated, not complicated, but it's weird stuff. Weird science. Before I was the assessor, I used to read this stuff and say, I think I get it. And I didn't until I became the assessor. And, you take classes, you learn about this stuff, you understand what it's being used for. It's a measure. The equalization rate is just a measure of the level of assessment in any given municipality. So obviously the town of Brookhaven is my municipality. So how do you, and where does this rate come from is the big question. It doesn't come from me. It comes from the state of New York. And the calculation is really simple. It's the assessed value, the whole assessed value in the whole town, divided by the market value in the town. And that's how you get an equalization rate. But how does it come to be? Every year, the state, every time real estate from one period to another, we'll say from July 1st until June, the state collects when real property is transferred. As an attorney, we have to give 3 documents to transfer property: a deed, a tax return, and a form called 5217. That form gets sent up to Albany. And just a little quick aside, when I was first an attorney, I was sitting in a class and the attorney says, I don't know what the state does with this form. It goes in a box someplace. Well, that's not true. I learned 20 some odd years later that is the form. The state now measures all the sales. They take a sample of sales and they develop the equalization rate from the sale. They see what the assessed value was. They take that, they see the sale price, and they say, okay, your assessed value is based on the sample. We had about 3,200 samples last year, and they see your assessed valuation, your EQ, your equalization rate, or residential assessment ratio, which is the same thing. This is your new number. Every year I get this number. What it does, it's basically trying to keep up values with the ever-changing real estate market. So your equalization rate is called the converter. I mean, if it's a simple calculation, and then you can go the other way, and I can back into market value. So that's what the equalization.
So what, if you can just tell me, what month is that determined?
We usually get it around mix it. I would say starts in June. We have conversations starting in June, September, October. We get.
So what the community needs to understand, especially the folks that are at home listening, is that we go out with a budget in May, okay,
Right.
and we put out a 2% budget, a tax compliant budget, and we tell the community, look, your tax is going to go up on an average of $179 for this town, $210 for this township. And then what happens is that the equalization rate hits in September, and we have to adopt, those rates. And
The equalization rate doesn't change the assessed value, the taxable assessed value. It's a market value creator is what it does. It creates
but I guess the
market
question
value.
I have is, I'm town of Islip. Right?
Right.
We approved the 2% budget a couple of years ago,
Right.
and all of a sudden my tax bill came out, and my tax went up $1,000. It was added to the school tax.
But it wasn't the equalization rate that did that, is what I'm trying to say.
That's what we were told. Yes.
I don't know who told you that, but the equalization rate, that's a measure of market value. It's basically used for market value. Now,
So
the
what happens in a situation like that is our phones ring off the wall. They say, wait, back in May, you told us that our taxes are all going to go up this price.
because one of the items that the equalization rate is used for, again, I'm going to be into the weeds really soon. If a school district sits over two towns, that's the example they gave me in this through the state. The equalization rate will determine market value. So say the example they gave was really, really simple. And it basically ended up one school district owed 60% of the cost. The other one only owed 40 because their market value as driven by the equalization rate was higher. So that's their equity. It's really used because every municipality assesses differently. The town of Islip, we're on 1950 values. The town of Islip did a reval in 1980. So their numbers might be higher. So they're working on 1980 values. The town of Brookhaven is working on 1950 values.
Okay.
So you're right. But again, they're all uniform. No matter what formula you use, they're all uniform. So our EQ rate in the town of Brookhaven is 0.48%. It's less than 0.5%. So, but it's uniform throughout the town. The whole point is uniformity. As Neil said before, fair and equitable. Everything has to be uniform within each municipality.
Yeah, I don't think the community understands that.
I know
think
that.
that's
It's
why
very, like I said, this is
yeah.
very complicated
Yeah.
stuff, but it's,
So those numbers are determined after the budget vote happens.
well, yeah, again, you're always tying this back to your budget, but I can't, this has to do with property values. Unfortunately, they don't go lock in step, with our valuation date. The date they start collecting this data is from July 1st when the roll is finalized. That becomes the historical number working backwards. So when people grieve their assessment, they have to pick a time period within that because they can't grieve a value that was an EQ, an equalization rate that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, just like I said, the example I gave you regarding my own home, I mean, if I come to town and grieve, I can't go back and pick when the equalization rate was higher because it's a lower market value. I can't do that. You got to stay within a certain
Sure.
period of time because it's not an apples to apples comparison. So that's the EQ. Really, like I said, it's the magic number that gets you from 2718 to 566 250. It's a very complicated, and there's a lot of things that go into the EQ. What is it used for? It's used, some weird stuff. Not weird, but it's for debt limits. So the EQ is used for debt limits because obviously they want to know if the municipality can pay back its debts and that they're not overtaxing or indebting their constituents. The biggest one that I see on my list here is evidence in court proceedings when people make basically small claims cases, the small claims assessment review. That's because they say, well, that's how we can get the comparison equal.
Mike, did you have something?
If I could, maybe let me give you some real. You could probably explain better now. To piggyback on Rob's concern. So this year, we passed the budget in May, 216 million, I think it was. Okay, it was 2.2% overall. It goes through the process, and now people get their school tax changes. Town of Smithtown taxes only went up 1.01%. School taxes for the people there. In the town of Islip, they actually went down 0.4%.
And okay,
You guys went up, and I say you guys, I have to include myself because I live right next to Hiawatha, go up 3.3 something percent. That's what people don't understand.
because the equalization rate probably drove, our equalization rate went down, so it drives market value up. So if you compare market values over Islip, Smithtown, and Brookhaven, based on the market values, the Brookhaven had a greater share.
So
That's the example that the state gave me.
So houses are selling for less in Brookhaven or
Or
more?
they're selling for more. So with the EQ, when the EQ rate goes down, it means the market values are rising. The market values are rising.
So the equalization rates in Brookhaven, like you said, is 0.48,
0.48%.
and in Islip, it's 6.68, and in Smithtown, it's 0.8.
Yeah.
So I think when we talk, and Mr. Sachs is here, and he says the equalization rates apportions the levy across the
It's
towns.
within the towns, but not. That's why there's differences in 3 towns. So that's why you have that.
But
So
it's
when we see those calculations, we look at in our formulas, we get the assessed values from the towns, and that gets divided by the equalization rate, and we get the total assessed.
Market value. You get the market value.
Right.
That's the market value.
And then based on those 3 towns' market value, we do a ratio to see what percentage of the total they are. So for Brookhaven, we had 64.8% of that total market value. Islip was 31.7%. Smithtown was 3.43%. That's how we apportion our levy total based on those percentages. And that's where you'll see the differences across the
Well,
town.
it's interesting because I think the system is disjointed from the actual income of the people, right? Because you could have an elderly couple in Brookhaven who lived in the house all their life. They sell the house for $600,000, move to Florida. The people who buy it move in. They're not making, right?
But their assessment doesn't change. Their assessment, the same assessment. Your assessment, just so you know, the assessment does not change on transfer. It's the same assessed value unless you add stuff. You add pools, decks.
Well, wait, I thought
living space, your assessed value doesn't change.
when you
This
send
is
the
a market
52
value
when you send the
indicator.
5217 up, as long as it's not as long as
It's a sale price.
yeah, as long as it's a fair arm's length
Oh, no,
exchange.
It has to be arm's length, of course.
Right.
It has to be arm's length. But the sale price, remember, the assessed value over the sales price, the 2718 over the 566, that will net you 0.0048. So that's just for this one example. That's an average. But remember, the state collects over 3,000 of these and gives us a long spreadsheet and does a whole calculation of what the new EQ would be based on this sample. It's all based on sample.
But it's interesting that the income of the residents isn't taken into account.
No, it's
Right.
not. It has
So-
to do with the sale price.
Right.
It's the 5217, as you know, I know you're an attorney, it's just giving information, what you sold, how much you sold it for, what it was, its property types. So these are obviously property type 210, which is single family homes,
Right,
and
right.
keeping it simple. Yes.
Great. Any other
It's-
questions from the board? Okay. Thank you very much for coming out.
You guys
Very
all.
informative.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.
Thank you, guys. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Trombetta. So at this point, let's turn it over to our student board member reports. Let's start with Mia from East. What's happening at East?
Hello, I'm glad to be back. I know I missed the last meeting, but I wanted to start with some positive things and updating on the character corn that Mr. Antonetti has implemented. He actually mentioned to me this past week that other school districts have been contacting him in hopes of implementing a similar system in their schools, which is great to see a positive impact happening across the board. And then just a refresher on how it works is staff and faculty can have the opportunity to not nominate, but almost tell Mr. Antonetti if a student is showing good character or showing acts of kindness throughout the school. And Mr. Antonetti will call that student down to his office where they'll receive a coin, which can be traded in at our school store and different places in the school for something of the same value. And then they also receive a positive phone call home to their parents explaining why they got this coin, what they did to receive it, and how it works, which is a nice change to see in the school because usually when you're called down to the principal's office, it's not for a positive reason. So it's nice to see that everyone's getting called down for positive reasons rather than negative situations in the school. And then additionally, student government has had our ALS assembly on Monday, which later in the year in May will join the ALS Walk for Life and walk from Sachem East to Sagamore. So on Monday, the ALS Walk for Life, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's a organization where they raise money for patients with ALS, especially raising money for patients who need wheelchairs and need wheelchair accessible vans and need how do I explain this? So say that someone is in a wheelchair and they only have stairs in their house, a way to get a room on the first floor so they can still be comfortable living in their house, or a ramp so they can get into their house and still be comfortable. So the Walk for Life is a way to share. It's a way to share information about ALS and the disease and how it's affecting people. So on Monday, 2 patients came in and they were talking to the students and explaining how it affects their lives and how it is hard, but it's how they like to stay positive in different ways that they use this walk to help them, and how it gives them something to do with their time rather than just waiting for someone to find a cure, which is obviously taking a long time. It's a very eye-opening experience for a lot of students, and it's really nice to see how their community is so knit together and working so hard to keep this a tight community. And then additionally, we have a fundraiser starting now until May, which last year we fundraised over $7,000 just from Sachem East, and that doesn't include Sagamore and any other schools that participate with us. And this year we're reaching for a goal of over 8,000. So hopefully we're one of the highest schools donating to this this fundraising. And then on another note, in this for seniors this year, Mr. Lemke and his team are working really hard to get ready for senior trip. We're planning our buses and our rooms, and that's happening at in the middle of April, and we're all very excited for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia. Daniel.
Hey guys, I hope you all had a wonderful break. I know I did. It was a great time. But now moving on to what's going on at Sachem. So yesterday and today we've had our curriculum fair in our back gym. And this is an opportunity for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students to see and choose what classes they'd like to take for next year. So that's been going on, and it's been a lot of fun to, I've been there with WSHR and trying to get people to take that class and drive up the enrollment. So it's a really cool thing for all of our kids to get to choose their classes. And next, actually going on right now at Sachem, we have our curriculum night where 8th and 9th grade parents get to, see what's going on in each department. And in 5-minute intervals, they go from classroom to classroom. So they start, like, for instance, they go to math and they go to history, and they get to see what's being taught to their kids. And then also we've had at WSHR, we've recently had Alyssa Tappan get featured in an article by the New York Post, which talked about her work with WSHR as a sideline reporter and on the radio. So it's really cool to see her get some recognition in the New York Post. And additionally, Fox 5 was at her school on Monday, and they interviewed her. And there will be a TV segment on Fox 5 at 5 o'clock on Friday to highlight some of the great things she's done.
Thank you, Daniel. It's amazing what you guys have been able to do with the radio station. So hats off to the vision that you guys put out there. So you're actually executing on. Yep. Great.
Yeah, it's great. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. Senior year is going quick, right?
It is. Yeah.
It's going to fly now from here until June. So buckle up and enjoy it. So yeah. Any questions from the board for our students? Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, Mia, I love the honor coin. Has been a tradition in the military for a very long time. And, it's when you'd see a soldier doing something that was, far and beyond or honorable, you'd hand them a coin. So are these, do we design these coins, or like, what do the coins look like?
So I saw one actually today, and it's almost like, do you know how like the different departments like NYPD, how they have coins like that? Challenge coins. It looks very similar to a challenge coin. Okay. If like that's how you want to, maybe I'll see if Antonella will let me bring one.
I was going to say I have one in my office, so after the meeting I'll run up and grab it.
I love the idea. It's a great idea.
If my
Steph, go
child
ahead.
ever gets a coin, can it be framed? Yeah, so he doesn't have to use it to pay for something. Can it come home to his mother to frame it?
I will ask Mr. Antonetti, but I'm sure if that's something that he wanted, it could probably be.
No pressure, Chris.
I would want it.
So I'm sure parents would like those coins to be framed, and I'm sure that is an option. However, they are costly. So the idea is the initial output to buy the coins, that's why they can buy stuff through the school store so we can reuse
Can
those
we
coins.
buy a commemorative coin?
Just take a picture of it, frame a picture of it, right? So, yeah. Okay. Any other questions for our students? Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Okay. Okay, takes us approval of minutes from our December 17th meeting. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Meredith, second by Mike. Questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Allison, visitors? No. Okay. Section 4, business items, consent agenda A through C. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Matthew, second by Dennis. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Takes us to section 5, election services contracts. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Mike, second by Sabrina. Questions?
There's some concerns and some questions and information I think we need to get, okay, regarding item A and item B. As you know, the board took action, okay, in the resolution to actually go with paper ballots, okay, that would save the district significant amount of money to opposed to purchasing ballots for the machines. And it just need to, I think we need to gather information as to whether or not B is contingent on A, because if we approve this tonight, A is going to cost the district a considerable amount more money to run our election. And we know our election, in years past that we had here revotes, we're able to accommodate, 4, 5, 6,000 people and be able to have those, those results, confirmed, in a short period of time. So I'd like to make a motion to table item 5A and B until we can get that information, and then maybe put it back on a future agenda.
Great. We've got a motion by Rob. We have a second by Matthew. Questions and comments on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. Okay. Question, Ed, we had a motion and a second for section 5. We had a second motion to table it. Do I need to do anything else after that to close out section 5, or we can move past that? Perfect. Thank you. Okay. It takes us to section 6, personnel teachers, consent agenda A through D. Can I have a motion? Motion by Rob, second by Matthew. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Stacy?
Thank you. This evening, we're proud to recognize one of our educators who has earned tenure. We want to congratulate Nicholas Quode on this well-deserved achievement. Nick, thank you so much for your hard work and dedication to the Sachem family. Congrats. You want to come up for a picture?
Oh, yeah. You get on his back. Thank
I know. I think we need to get some Velcro for that.
Okay, takes us to section 7, personnel support staff, consent agenda A through H. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Stephanie, second by Mike. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. No, 6 was the tenure. Takes us to section 8, contracts, consent agenda A through D. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Matthew, second by Michael. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Section 9, field trip approval. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Rob, second by Jessica. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Section 10, budget transfer. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Sabrina, second by Rob. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Takes us to section 11, donations, consent agenda A through D. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Mike, second by Stephanie. Questions, comments?
Just want to thank these people. I mean, we had a lot of donations here. I don't know if anybody looks at them or we're just, I know a lot of people out in the crowd or at home just kind of hear A, B, C, D, and E, but we had a lot of musical instruments, and I know one of them was it Rewild, Long Island? And they gave us a big donation for plants, signage, irrigation, design, and installation at Linwood. So pretty cool stuff that we're getting donated for us.
Yep, no, Dennis, right on. These are very sizable donations too. So, yep. Yeah, let's just vote. Any questions or comments? Nope. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. So yes, Allison, if we can get thank you notes out, that'd be great. So, yep. Thank you. Section 12, Committee on Special Education. Can I have a motion, please? Motion by Matthew, second by Stephanie. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Item 13, monthly reports from our committees. Stephanie.
The legislative committee is in full steam ahead with advocacy, like a lot. So we don't have a meeting planned for yet. We took a little break, but we didn't really take a break for the holidays. And we're going to get right back into it. So we have a bunch of things planned. We have meetings. Again, I got to shout out to Paul sitting in the audience because he's pretty much, I'm going to say every other day working on something. But he's been amazing. The rest of the team, incredible. So we'll have a bigger update after our next meeting.
Great. No, I know this legislative committee has probably been the most active we've had in many years. So it's greatly appreciated. I think you guys are doing fantastic work. I know there's conversations that you had with I believe it was the governor's representative of Long
Yes.
Island.
Mhm.
So there's some things happening here.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
really,
We're
really
putting
positive.
together information, and the community will see updates with that after our next meeting.
Yep,
But,
perfect.
yeah, it's been amazing.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other committee
Just want to
updates?
acknowledge one
Yeah,
thing.
good, Rob.
We received a report that Stephanie put together with regards to some of the things that we charged the committee with. I thought it was well put together. Meredith, you might have. And like I said, I know it's going to get the approval of administration, okay, and hopefully we can get it done and we can get that sent up. So I know there was a request by some of our elected officials to put it on paper. One of the governor's rep from
The Suffolk County representative to Governor Hochul asked us for this information. I was going to share it next meeting because we haven't even shared it with the entire committee yet. It was
Yeah.
the people that were at the meeting for with Governor Hochul's representative. Plus, there's some errors that needed to be adjusted because I am not an expert in any of this, and there are experts in our committee that are incredible, but they bring up questions that I'm like, I have to find out.
Yeah.
But
well, either way, you did
it's
a
amazing.
great job
Thanks.
putting it to
Thank
compile
you.
and
It
just-
was it's a labor of love, and we it seems like this committee enjoys doing it, which is what's great. There's nothing going wrong with this committee. It's amazing. love
I
it.
do want to say, because
Yeah.
a lot of times I'm a little negative, but I will say that Governor Hochul's representative for Suffolk County, she's amazing. She is receptive. She listens. I was blown away by the conversation that we had with her and by how much she listened to us and how interested she seemed in everything we had to say. So
Great. Thank you, guys. Any other committee updates? Nope. Okay. We'll continue on. Allison, any other comments from closing? Nope. Okay. Old business. I don't think we have any old business to discuss, but is there anything that we need to discuss tonight? Nope. And there's no real board discussion items for this evening, which takes us into future items for discussion. Any future items? Sabrina.
I don't know if it's possible and if the board agrees. I'd love a presentation on the adaptive PE program. I follow on Instagram. It looks great, but I would love to hear about, its inception and what it's doing and who is incorporated in it.
Absolutely. Ray would be more than happy to
Yeah,
come
I know
and
Ray.
speak. I know he's
he
very
used to be
proud
at
of it.
Tamarack.
Yep.
So now he's running it. I know.
I'll get in touch with him and we can set something up because he's very proud of it and excited about
It
it.
looks
So,
great.
yeah.
I would just love to see like the details about it. So
Sure.
if that's possible.
Thank you. Steph?
We need to pick the legislative forum date officially. I don't know if we have to do that now here in the future after we meet with the committee, but we're going to have a legislative roundtable. So we need to get an invite made and all that stuff. So I don't know if that has to be picked by everyone or if we could do that just as a committee.
I think the committee can come back with dates to the board and we can see if it works. And obviously, it's going to be contingent upon the elected officials and administration
We have
availability.
a suggested date from the elected officials, but I'll
Okay.
iron that out with
Yeah,
the
if you
rest
could
of the
just,
committee.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, nail it down with the committee and then share it with the board if that
All right,
works.
great.
All right. Meredith?
So years ago, I kind of said how I thought it would be great if we could really kind of do what the honor coin is doing in every school, where you get a phone call home because you did something great. Because it's nice, like Mia said, to see these kids getting called down to the principal's office for good is different, and we all hear the name on the announcement. So now you don't know that somebody's being called down to the principal's office for good or bad. So that's a positive. And I'm wondering if there's a way that we can roll this out district wide in all of our schools.
So every building is doing something about character and differently. I think Lou's very proud of the character coins at East. I know in a lot of our elementary schools, students are getting phone calls as well as postcards mailed home. We have a lot of elementary schools having lunch with the principal. They're chosen based on a kindness event, and they're invited to have lunch with the principal, and they can bring a couple of their friends. We've sat in a bunch of those. So every single building is doing something recognizing character, just doing it differently. But it is happening across the district, that I know.
Go ahead, Mia.
I just wanted to add something. Like my brother's in middle school, and some of the middle schools do student of the week and student of the month. So that's also happening. If that touches on what you're talking about.
They have breakfast
Yeah.
of champions
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Good, Matt.
Yeah, I don't want to harp on the coin thing, but I received some coins myself in the military, and the thought of giving it back would have really hurt me. So I wonder if there's
They're not forced to. Lou's not going around collecting them.
Oh,
It's just
because I know if I got one, I would not want to give it back or buying like Twinkies with it. So, well, I have to say,
I'm going to get them for all of you.
no, it's
What's
a
the
great
cost
coin.
involved?
It's really a beautiful coin. But what I was going to ask is, with our tech programs or anything else, is there a way we can produce our own? And maybe
I think each class should create a coin that we hand them out at graduation.
with Mike's face on it.
I hope this coin gets more than a bag of chips. You? I'll give some.
Right.
I have something.
Yeah, go ahead, Steph. You got one more item?
I thought
Rob.
Meredith just telepathically was going to bring this up because this is your baby, but did we ever decide if we were going to do signing day for the kids not going to college, that we're going right into a trade?
We already did it. We did it last year, and
Oh,
we'll
we did?
continue to do it again this
Okay,
year.
great,
Yep.
thanks.
Rob, do you have something?
Yeah, just not this was not what I was going to bring up, but maybe we could kind of coincide that with Skills USA has a national student signing day, and maybe do it, tag along with them and do it on the same day to highlight the kids that are involved in the CT programs. I think would be great because they do a really nice job. They'll send you media stuff. They'll send you a whole bunch of stuff. But that's not what I was going to bring up. What I wanted to bring up is that, look, in all my years, my favorite part of the board meetings is when we really acknowledge and recognize students. I know we haven't really recognized a lot from September to January, but I'd like to see possibly a schedule as to who we're going to recognize
Our
academically.
athletes are coming in next board meeting.
Yeah, what about academics? Any students that are really shining right now that award winners? I know Simon's awards come out soon and some of that stuff. Yeah.
We will certainly keep an eye on it. If we have any students of that caliber, we'll bring them in.
Great.
Okay. Any other items for future discussions? Okay. All right. At this point, I'd like to make a motion to go. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Just Michelle, obviously the governor hasn't put out her executive budget yet. So maybe we don't, it's, as a future discussion item, we pick up on the budget again.
Of course, you're in my season.
Do we want to do that next time? Is there any updates, Michelle, by the next meeting, or when are you anticipating our next budget meeting?
So on the budget calendar, I put the next presentation for February 4th
Yep.
because I believe it's the 14th is like the state of the state, and then they do the budget update, and then the runs come out. I don't think the runs would be available for the 21st meeting,
Right.
or
Okay.
they may come out that day. That's why I made it for February 4th. But any updates that we get, any new information I have, I will update you. There's nothing since the last board meeting, but
Okay.
Mike's hoping for a miracle, but that's fine. Okay. Thanks. Okay. At this time,
It
I'd
is
like
an
to-
election year.
Yeah. Make a motion to go into exec session for the purposes of discussing a student matter related to a impartial hearing. Motion by Stephanie, second by Rob. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Good night, everybody. We'll see you in
Good
2
night.
weeks.